Hi everyone, so today is more a special video. So I actually got a request from one of my viewers because he's actually currently using Asana for project management, and then he also using Notion for like the SOP stuff. So his idea is that he wanted to check whether it's possible to use what is existing in Asana, especially for project management, to kind of move it to Notion. So there are kind of two parts on that. I'll kind of show you whether it's possible, and then second is how you can implement it. So it'll be a much longer video. Hopefully I'll put some timeline there if I still remember, just so that you guys can know. But the short answer is definitely yes, you can do that. So here's actually an example layout of how they are using Asana for now. So we actually hop on call just to kind of help me to understand. So on the very basic, so basically what they have is a project structure here, project database, and then tasks and then subtasks. So they're actually running like an Airbnb business. So there are a lot of different properties. So in this case, the properties will be their projects. And then tasks is the tasks that have for each of the properties itself, and then they have something even lower, which called subtasks. So here is some examples that we had during our call. I just took like a snapshot of it. So here is one of their projects. So this is probably their property. It's called Fulton Avenue, and then I kind of just block out the assignees. So they kind of group each of their tasks into different groups. For example, here have turnovers, sales work orders, and then management agreements. So each of them have their different groups for the tasks. And then here they have assignees, they have due dates, they have tags. And then bottom here, so once they click into the task itself, so they do have subtasks as well, assigned for each of the projects. So here, like for tasks, once they click inside, next turnover items, and then they have the subtasks. And then on this part, he mentioned that he wants to have like a text here. So basically like the task name, and then assignees, due date, and then projects, and then text. So yeah, this is definitely possible in Notion, and then it's one of the more basics functions that you can build. Of course, when I say basics, doesn't mean it's easy. For new beginners, like it's probably a bit harder like to kind of visualize how all this is gonna work, especially when we're gonna use our relation and rollup. So I know that Notion just released like the Notion Formula 2.0, so I'm not gonna use it for today, like in terms of rollup relations. I just want to keep this as simple as possible. So yeah, let's go to Notion. So now that we're in Notion, so I've created a new page here. So this is just a blank page here. So maybe just call it Asana to Notion system. So this will be a bit long videos. So it's gonna take a bit longer, like just to show you how you kind of do it, and then I kind of explain it in the process. But yeah, just bear with me. Like if you want to fast forward, that's okay. I'll share the link to the template also once this is done. So yeah, so earlier mentioned, so we need a project, and then we need a task, and then also we need subtasks. So I'm not sure what do you call all this in Asana. So basically in Notion is called database. So first you need to create a database. So /database, and then inline, and then I'll just type this as project, and then I'll create another one again, /database. So maybe what's the difference between inline and full page is that, so for full page, it's actually the same thing, but let me just select full page, right? And then I'll just name this as task. And then you can go back here. You can see this is where the task is. So inline basically means that it stays on like this page here. It acts more like a text or table instead of like a page which you click inside. But then if you click it wrongly, then you can just actually change this, select it, and then just turn inline, and that's where you get it again. All right. And then the last part you need is a subtask. So I'm not too sure how I want to structure a subtask for now, whether we need a database or not. But for now, I'll go more to no. And then before we start, let me just expand this. I'll kind of change like some logo for this. Since they are like the person that reached out to me, they are like the Airbnb services. So I just put like a building there. And then for tasks, I normally just prefer like a checklist. Okay, so now we have the basic structure of the project and then task database. So next we want to kind of create the structures for the projects. So this is project, so maybe I don't know, let's call it building 1, building 2, building 3. Let me just delete this. So in the example that it showed me, let me kind of refer it back to that for a second. So they have something called assignee, so they assign to someone. So actually they will never really show me the project database. So I'm just gonna assume maybe there's like a manager for this one. So how you can kind of select, you can either select person. So if they're all using Notion, right? So this is kind of how you can select manager. So this is where, or you can select property. So basically this is just like a drop down. So Thomas, Ryan, I don't know, Lisa. So this is kind of how you can select as well, just to select. But for now, I'm just going to use the person property. So I can select my name here. So this is kind of just like ownership, and then maybe you have like a text for address, and maybe a contact person. So you can select phone. Yeah, this is kind of how you can adjust it. So another thing I kind of like about Notion is that you can actually include images for each of the buildings. So for example, I want to change add cover. So let me just change this to just a random building to find it. So I actually built one examples for my previous client as well. So they are also into the real estate business. So I really like the format of this one. So we just change it to like gallery. Of course, it kind of depends on what the use case is, right? For this one, like you can kind of do like building one, then you can just put the buildings here just to make it looks better. So add cover. I was hoping it automatically shows another building for me, but unfortunately there's a no. And then we'll show another one, maybe this one. Okay, this is kind of like how they manage your properties. And then ideally once we select a property, right, we kind of want to see the projects inside. So how you can do this is that, so first of all, we need to kind of link these two together, because currently they are kind of not talking to each other. So let me just, so this is the gallery view, right? So just click plus, so there's a new view. So this is actually one of the differences between Asana and Notion. So Asana, I'm aware that you guys they do have like table, but for Notion, you actually have more options here. You can have galleries, you have board, timeline, list, calendar. So they are actually all using the same table or database, just that you view the data in the different formats. So for now, let me just delete this. We go to table here. So this is what we have earlier, right? So, but then it's kind of, they're not talking to each other. So we want to make them talk to each other, right? So how you can actually do this is something called relation in Notion. So select relation. And then I want to connect with someone, right? So who should I connect? So in this case, I want to connect with the task database. So just select task database. And then, so there's some things here noted like no limit, show on task. So basically limit is that you just select no limit, means that you can add as many tasks as possible, though there's no limit on it. And then do you want to show it on task? So if you click this, and then it will show up here as a project. If you don't, then it wouldn't show up. So in our case, we want to kind of know which task belongs to which project, then it's yes. And then once you click it, right, so you can see two things happen here. So we have task columns here, and then we have projects column here. So for example, we want to add new task, task 1, just a very quick one here, maybe task 2, task 3, task 4. And then just everything under building 1. So what will happen is that you can see in building 1, you can see all the tasks is being assigned here. Let me just do a wrap column so you kind of see better. Interesting, why is it only showing 2 though? It shouldn't be the case. Let me click inside here. That's very interesting. I don't think that should be. Okay, it's showing up now. So you can see all the 4 tasks here. So this is kind of how you can keep track of it. And then, so that's first thing. So since I don't have too much information on how they kind of keep track of this address or the project properties, right? So I'll just leave it as simple as possible. And the next thing is the important part where you want to kind of, when you open each of these building, right, you kind of want to see the task inside itself. So you don't want to like go down here. It's kind of separate, right? So what you can do is you can go to just open one of them and then slash link. So once you slash link, right, you can see link view of a database. So for this is that you can actually view another database inside your own database. For in this case, in the project itself, you want to see the task database. So here we just select task. So task database, and then select table. And then what you need to do is very important here. In the filter, select project, and then select building 1. So this only shows tasks for building 1 only. So in our case, let's say I add more tasks right. So task 5, task 6, and then I assign them to maybe building 2. Oh, no, building 3 in this case. So you see it won't show up here. And that's how it works. And then maybe just kind of hide this since we already know it's gonna be another project, right? Maybe I add just one checkbox. Just make it as simple as possible. And then let me just go back here. And then just make it show up here. So checkbox. And then there you have it. So for checkbox, you kind of just do it like this. So you have like a very simple checkbox that you kind of keep track of once you go into projects. But then you might have another question. It's like, oh, Thomas, like if I go to building 2, you see there's nothing here. So that's where template comes in. So let me just kind of copy this so we don't have to do a lot of homework. Just copy it since we already done the homework. So the next step is just in this blue arrow drop down here. You just click it and then select template. So normally I just kind of put default, and then here I just paste what we copied earlier, and then create link view of database. So they ask you kind of which one you want. For now, we just use the same, and then just hide this. Normally I prefer to hide that, and then I just kind of rename as task. And then what you do is you need to change the filter. So instead of changing to building 1, so Notion actually has a very neat feature when you can actually select the template itself. So by default. So let me just put another house icon here. Maybe not a hut, I guess. All right, so now that we have this, and then just lock it. So just for a good practice, so people can't simply change things. And then just go out. So what would happen is that, let me just, okay, we can just test out building 2. So once you click building 2, you can see there's a default here. If you click it right, so you'll automatically create this task here. So if I create a new task here, so task building B1, task B2. So you can see it's automatically being created here. And then even at the task database outside here, you kind of see it's automatically select building number 2. But then you might have another question. Oh, Thomas, like I don't want to always click it one by one, right? It's just very tedious. So that's when there's a very good feature by Notion as well. They came out just, I think this year or last year. It's the template itself. You can kind of set as default. And then you can select only on table view or all of them. So it depends on your use case. But for now, I just select all of them. So what this means that, let's say, let me just delete this now and then create building 3, right? Just do a new one. So what happens is that you can see actually already applied an icon here. And then not just that, you can see it's already applied this database as well. So task building 3, then task building 3, 2. So you can see automatically it's already creating tasks and then link it to project itself. So that's how you can actually make it very seamless. Like every time you create a new project, it will just automatically create tasks as well. So that's how you can have it. And then the next one is on subtask itself. So I'm not too sure, or before we go to subtask, I think so about tagging, right? So what you can do for tags as well is, I remember seeing the example earlier is they have tagging and then grouping systems. So maybe I just create something called multi-select. So it's just like a group. And then in the example, let me kind of cheat a bit. So there's something called turnover, and then work orders, and then management agreement. So they have kind of different tasks for different lists. So I'm not sure, like, I'm assuming this group is only for one. So instead of using multi-select, we just use select. So basically you can only select one for each of them. So in this case, you kind of just do an example here. Okay, and then I'll select maybe building 2. So another thing that can be done is, so currently when you see the task, right, it's actually not being grouped. So what can be done is also you can actually select, let me try doing that there. Let me just do it here. I'll just change the template so that it automatically applies to the rest. It doesn't automatically highlight. So you kind of have to reapply again if you make changes. That's kind of one of the pain thing about Notion sometimes. And then once you can select group, you can just set up to hide empty groups. If there's no task there, it will just being empty. And then I can just don't show everything. And that's it. So just lock it again. So what would happen is that, maybe I should show it though. I'm not too sure. Maybe not. Depends on the use case, I guess. So let me just remove this. I can kind of show you how it works. Not really the task itself. Let me just remove this table here. And then select default again. So you should be able to see the grouping being shown in this case. And here you can see, so management agreement, turnover, so there's task. So you can kind of click here and click here. So that's how you have it. Another thing that can be done as well is the filter. So you kind of add on as well if the checkbox. So for example, very common thing we do is, so you want to make sure that only the unchecked task is shown here. So what I would normally do is, so this is like I'll call this just like active task. And then we have another task, it's called completed. So this is where the filter will be something more like check, and then this is where you kind of see all the completed tasks here, and then here is the active one, so it means it's not being completed. And yeah, so if you want to add a new task, you can always click here and then add a new one. Or in this case, yeah, it's a bit not that simple to add. So let me kind of change the template so that it makes a bit more sense. Instead of hiding it, you probably can kind of show it as well. So we just show it, and then we can do filter, and then this one is checkbox. It's a check, so it means it's active. Just do this active, and then kind of change the logo as well. Maybe just active means like maybe it's happy, right? So there's a sun, and then this one is completed. So I like to use the trash icon, just like kind of shows its archive. And then the filter you kind of change to check, and then lock it, and then that's how we can have this thing here. So just do one more time, delete this, and then apply it, and then there you can have it. So you can have different groups here, and then you can even just add new items here. So new tasks, that's how you have it. And if I click it, you just disappear, disappear, disappear. That's it. So, and then another thing is can just hide this so you will not see it here. Just hide property. So that's kind of how we can have this whole project system here. And then for subtasks, right? So you can actually do something similar as well. Basically, once you link it, you have another one. But I'm not too sure whether, I guess to what extent it's needed, right? So for subtasks, I would recommend just like you kind of have, so like a page here. So subtasks, and then you can have like a checkbox here. So don't want Notion AI, stop charging me. Don't want it, okay. I actually don't really find the appeal of Notion AI, but okay. So you can have something like this here. So basically, just a list of to do, and then maybe I can change this to subtasks, just heading 3, and then just give it some colors, and that's where you can have like all these to do, and then just kind of track it manually here. So I guess depends on your companies and how you guys operate, depends on how detailed you are, right? And then it's the same thing, like you can actually apply templates as well for subtasks, like defaults, and then just put this default here, and then I start taking it. Let's just not take it. So the idea is that every time I add a new task as well, it's very weird. I really don't like Notion AI sometimes, probably most of the time actually. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, kind of just remove this, and then so every time we create a task, so let's just make it as default as well. So set as default for all views. So even if you don't create tasks here, for example, I create it here, right? So new tasks with subtasks. Let's validate whether it's true. I click inside, so you can see this the subtask here. So yeah, that's how you can actually create these systems like for project management. And then another thing probably is quite helpful as well is kind of you want to see how many tasks is being completed. So that's a very helpful tools in Notion as well. It's called rollup. So basically, once you select rollup, right, you're trying to extract information from another database to your main database. So in this case, you want to extract the data on how many tasks has been completed into the project database. And then that's where we have rollup property, and then select relation tasks, and then select checkbox. So you kind of see this original view, kind of see how many is being checked, or you can kind of say check, and then you can even select a progress bar here. And normally I prefer I think one is fine. Or like this is fine as well. So you can see like check, and then percent check. So this kind of how you can see the percentage, and then you can see the bar. So let me just can name it as progress. Yeah, so this kind of like have like a beautiful view of the progress itself, and then you can even add it in front here. So select properties, and then select progress. So this kind of how you can see at the bottom here, like see how each of them have progress. Of course, you can have things like overdue, you can add dates. So that will be more complicated. I wouldn't cover here since we already kind of spent quite a lot of time on this system itself. So yeah, that's the part about linking projects tasks. And then when you kind of use Notion in this part, right? So basically, you just go to projects here and then tasks here. So you kind of separate as well. So that can be definitely done. And then maybe one last thing is for the task itself, because sometimes we assign it to different people, right? So you can select like assign to, let me just say assign to Thomas, right? So another neat tools in Notion is that you can actually filter based on the person itself. And then you can select me. So what this means is that whoever that logs into this Notion, they will automatically only see the task that is being assigned to them. So I won't be able to see other people's tasks unless I change the filter. So which is possible. So this is not recommended for like if you plan to share Notion to your customers, right? So this way definitely doesn't work because they can actually just remove the filter regardless of what kind of sharing access you provide. But in this case, since we're only for internal use case, so we can kind of have automatically select for the person and then just projects the names, the tasks, and then maybe you can have the groups here. So let me just select this as group by, and then that's it. So you can kind of see like all the tasks being assigned to you, and then you have the projects here. And then if you want to have like a main page here, so this is you can have an overview page. So this is what kind of differentiate between Notion and Asana is that even though you already have your system, you can kind of have like a separate page as well. Just kind of have a different views. So here, kind of looking at it's more like a table view, right? Maybe here. So this is like a default. We have like a table view, but if you go here, you can kind of have like a gallery view. So that's kind of, I would say, one of the main benefits of Notion as well. Just in terms of usability, and I wouldn't say it's the most easiest things to use, but just more pleasing in general. Like I think the system is like if people don't like it, people don't want to use it. So yeah, there you have it. So this is how you can actually create a project system in Notion if you come from Asana. So thank you very much.